Hello, good morning and or good afternoon or good evening, whatever the case may be. My name is Jeff Anderson, and I'm the president of GLIFA, which is the LGBTQI Employee Affinity Group for the State Department and other foreign affairs agencies. We've been around about 30 years. We have 1,100 members around the world, including representatives at 120 different consulates and embassies around the world. And we're very happy to be here with you today to mark International Day of Transgender Visibility. Today is really a day to shine a light on the contributions of our transgender and non-binary friends, colleagues, family members, activists around the world. It's also a moment to shine a light on the work that all of us in GLIFA and everywhere else need to do to ensure that transgender and non-binary individuals enjoy the same rights as all of us. So very excited today to have this panel of distinguished guests. And just before we get started, I just wanted to note that if you're interested in asking a question, please feel free to, for those watching on Zoom, please feel free to put it in the chat. And those watching on Facebook, please put your questions in Facebook, and we'll monitor those questions and then get them to the moderator. So without further delay, I would like to introduce our Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, Scott Busby. He had been working the bulk of his career advancing human rights around the world. And in his current capacity as the Acting Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, he really oversees US government efforts to support LGBTQI communities across the globe. So without further delay, sir, the floor is yours. P.S. Busby.
Thank you, Jeff, and greetings to everyone here today. Let me begin by extending a special thanks to GLIFA for bringing us all together on this Transgender Day of Visibility, a day in which we celebrate the courage and resilience of the transgender and gender non-conforming community and acknowledge all that has been accomplished to promote equality and justice in the face of adversity for this community. I'm delighted to be with you. I'd like to note specifically that to our knowledge, this is the first time the department has officially recognized this important day. In addition to my remarks now, some of you may have seen that Secretary of State Blinken has just issued a statement celebrating the accomplishments of the transgender and gender non-conforming community and noting our resolve to protect and promote the rights of the individuals who make up this community. President Biden has also just issued a proclamation recognizing this day. So I urge you to look at both of those important statements. So it gives me great pleasure and pride to be addressing you all on this special day. Around the world, trans and non-binary persons, such as our panelists today, are reaching new heights of leadership and achievement in areas ranging from politics and social activism to medicine, business, and entertainment. They are bravely stepping forward to tell their stories, offering hope to many who feel alone, unseen, and unheard. Just last week, we witnessed a historic milestone for the LGBTQI+ community in the United States with the Senate's confirmation of Dr. Rachel Levine as Assistant Secretary of Health at the Department of Health and Human Services. Dr. Levine is the first openly transgender U.S. federal official to be confirmed by the Senate, and we look forward to working closely with her and her team. While progress has been made, human rights abuses against transgender persons, particularly trans women of color and non-binary persons, remain all too common in many countries around the world. Structural barriers through discriminatory laws and policies often limit access to justice, health, education, and employment opportunities for trans and non-binary persons, thereby creating obstacles to their full participation in civic and political life. Transgender and non-binary persons living at the intersections of other marginalized identities, including Indigenous persons, older persons, members of racial and religious minorities, and persons with disabilities face unique and overlapping barriers to safety, security, and economic and social inclusion. As the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and in rights. Governments have an obligation to protect, respect, and uphold the dignity and fundamental freedoms of all people, including those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex. When governments uphold their obligation to protect human rights and fundamental freedoms, they are more likely to reflect the interests of all citizens, which in turn uplifts all members of society. As Secretary Blinken made clear in his remarks yesterday in rolling out our most recent human rights reports, it is US policy to protect and defend the human rights of all people without caveat. Here at the State Department, we are building on our longstanding efforts to promote universal human rights by answering President Biden's call in his February 4th memorandum to advance the human rights of LGBTQI plus persons around the world. The department, in coordination with relevant federal agencies, will use a broad range of diplomatic and programmatic tools and resources to ensure that our diplomacy and foreign assistance promote and protect the human rights of all LGBTQI plus persons, combat criminalization of individuals on the basis of LGBTQI plus status or conduct, protect vulnerable LGBTQI plus refugees and asylum seekers, and allow swift US responses to human rights violations and abuses of LGBTQI plus persons. We are also committed to working with the newly established White House Gender Policy Council to ensure respect for the human rights of women and girls in all their diversity at home and abroad, and to restore America as a champion for gender equity and equality. Through the Global Equality Fund, or the so-called GEF, we will continue to lead the coalition of government, corporate, and foundation partners who support human rights programming that empowers grassroots LGBTQI plus organizations and addresses the emergency needs of those in this community who may be at risk. The GEF's programs mobilize funding and resources to address some of the diverse concerns of the LGBTQI plus community, ranging from countering anti-gender ideology and discrimination to mitigating violence and abuse, including the disproportionate violence perpetrated against transgender, non-binary, and intersex persons, as well as queer women. We are also engaging robustly on LGBTQI plus issues within the multilateral sphere. We're pleased that today at the United Nations, the LGBTI core group event on the Transgender Day of Visibility includes Kim Coco, the first trans person elected to statewide office in the United States, where she sits on the Hawaii State Board of Education. To our colleagues and GLIFA representatives at US embassies, please know that the department is working tirelessly to recruit, retain, and promote a diverse workforce and to build a culture of inclusion for our LGBTQI plus employees, both in Washington, DC and abroad. One particular area of focus is affording our LGBTQI plus personnel and their families full diplomatic privileges and immunities. The department is also exploring policies that will better address the needs of our transgender and non-binary colleagues. Thank you again for this opportunity to address you all today. I wish you all the best in your collective work to advance equality for trans and gender diverse persons all over the world. May you have a safe and happy Transgender Day of Visibility. Thank you very much, and back over to you, Jeff.
Thank you very much, sir. And now I would like to turn the floor over to our moderator, Jessica Copeland. Jessica Copeland is a career Foreign Service officer, and she's currently serving in the State Department's Operations Center. I mentioned before we have 1,100 members. Many of those members are family members of LGBT, are parents of LGBT children, or people that also have children themselves. And Jessica represents the interests of LGBT plus parents in the State Department with GLIFA. And we've asked her to moderate today's event. So once again, please put your questions in the chat, and we'll monitor the chat and then get them to Jessica so she can ask the participants. So Jessica, thanks again, and the floor is yours.
Excellent. Happy Trans Day of Visibility, everyone. Pete S. Busby, thank you for your time and for those very excellent and hopeful words. Thank you, Jeff and GLIFA and DRL for making this happen. Most of all, thank you to our panel for their willingness to engage with us on this day. Thank you for your bravery and your strength and your commitment. I'm going to introduce each one of our panelists and then ask them a series of questions. And then after the question period, if there are questions from the audience, we're happy to facilitate those as well. So we have three participants today from around the world. Our first is Tashnuva Anand. She is Bangladesh's first trans person to broadcast the news. And in addition to her day job as a news anchor, she is pursuing a master's in public health and is the first trans woman to receive a scholarship to obtain such a degree in Bangladesh. She has been a leader in various nonprofit organizations in Bangladesh supporting the trans community. She is an accomplished dancer and actor and continues to make appearances on television. And most recently, she's been working to bring challenging questions of human rights and social justice to the stage through her work with theater NGOs. We're happy to have her here today. Our second participant is Zoe Joffre. Zoe is an activist, actress, and a TV host with an academic background in psychology. She is currently the fundraising coordinator for It Gets Better Mexico. Within her activism journey, she's collaborated with various organizations and causes in Mexico, such as Almas Cautivas AC and Rogiva AC, working for the empowerment of women and indigenous women as well. It Gets Better Mexico strives to build strategic alliances that empower the LGBTIQ plus community in Mexico. And our third participant is Haber. Haber is an LGBTI activist from Poland who has been engaged in the national and international movement since 2008. Currently, Haber, they are a co-chair of the International Trans Fund and the finance director of ILGA Europe. Previously, they have been engaged with Campaign Against Homophobia, a Polish LGBTI advocacy and awareness raising organization, and Transfuzia Foundation, the first trans community and advocacy organization in Poland. So we are very delighted to have our speakers with us today. I'd like to launch with a very general question in no particular order. If any question moves you, feel free to answer a question. If you also feel that the question is better suited to someone else on the panel, also feel free to not answer. It's entirely our intention to make your concerns and experiences visible on this day of visibility, but please go at your own pace and according to your own comfort level. First off, today is a day to raise the visibility of trans persons, gender non-conforming persons, non-binary persons, and to raise trans concerns, trans challenges, and to celebrate successes and to celebrate each trans person. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you would like to see made visible on this particular day. Any one of you can feel free to start.
I guess I can break the ice if no one else is willing. So hi everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you for hosting this. It's really lovely to see the State Department stepping up, and I'm really encouraged by hearing things around the things that really show an intersectional approach that the State Department is taking to trans rights, also intersecting with racial equality, with feminism and other things, because all of this is very intertwined for trans communities globally. I'll maybe speak a little bit from the perspective of the International Trans Fund. We are a global grant maker, a participatory grant maker. We really strongly believe in trans people deciding about their own needs and priorities and methods of working. So through that cooperation with our grantee partners, we really get a sense of, let's say, the trends that emerge in different regions and different places. I think one lesson learned through my cooperation with the International Trans Fund for the last few years is that trans people are amazingly brave, amazingly robust, generous, caring. The ingenuity and the generosity of their work, it's really hard to describe, and because everything that they do is happening in conditions that are quite unbelievable for the majority of our societies, right? It was already said about the inequalities in access to education, healthcare. I think we should also add issues of precarity of work. So the fact that the majority of trans people really don't have the same chances and opportunities that the rest of the population. And yet what we see across the globe is trans groups and organizations mobilizing against oppressive governments, against oppressive law enforcement, against societies that would like to see them erased, working through the arts, through advocacy, through supporting each other, through community building, doing things like creating jobs within their own communities, creating ways of sustaining themselves and creating sustainable movements. All of that really needs to be underlined and cherished. It's really amazing to, on the Trans Day of Visibility, just take a minute and look at the diversity and the strength within trans movements.
That's really beautiful. I appreciate beginning with the heart and beginning with the resilience and the strength. So thank you so much. Tashnuva, Zoe.
Hi everyone. This is me, Tashnuva Anand from Bangladesh, and I'm really happy to see all of you from different parts of the world, and congratulations and many thanks to all of you, and welcome to a special day for us as well. This is the International Transgender Visibility Day. So I'm really happy and delighted to make presence with you as well. So first of all, if you, as you mentioned about myself, just who am I and what I'm doing as well. So no need to explain more about that. But the day of the day's remarks in our country is totally a new concept. We are not able to express ourselves in front of people as well. We are tried to do something in small situation, but now worldwide corona pandemic are going on. So we postponed our several programs. Our senior community representative, community leader also tried to do something in front of the social media or in front of the public to say about what is the concept of trans people, how they are. And I'm really wanted to thanks to my previous panelists. You are amazing. You explain what's the beauty of trans people, what's the scenario of ourselves. But thing is that I'm living a poor country in Bangladesh. We have lot of scenario. We have lot of wealth in nature. That's why people love Bangladesh, and I'm really happy that I'm from this part. And thing is that the majority of our people don't know about the concept of trans people. About they have more little gap between mainstream society to trans people. So this gap, we the people who are working in this sector as activists, as an as an actor, as a writer, as a something different parts of the society. We are trying to contribute society to understand this concept as well, and we are trying to do something better, and we want to able to contribute in our society. So just this is the beginning in our country, and the exposure of mine in front of social media, it was really appreciable in all part of the all world as well. And it, all parts of Bangladesh people congratulate me, and this is also acknowledged for our trans community. And this acknowledgement is only for my whole underprivileged community. They are fighting the years for their identity crisis, and they want to live with that dignity that others human beings are living. We are still now fighting our we are still now trying to expose ourselves in front of the society, and we are telling that you are also human being, and we are same. We have same pain. We have same sorrows. We have same love as well. Being a human, treat us. Being a human, first treat us as a human being. Forget the barrier from gender. Forget the barrier from caste, from other variation. So treat us as a human being. So as an activist, I love this day. As an artist, I love this day. As a human being, I love this day. And all we together want to celebrate this day. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Zoe.
Hi, Jessica. Hi, everyone. Thanks for this panel, and thanks for inviting me. I'm gonna talk about just a little because I don't talk too much, but I try to I'm gonna try to talk about me. It's difficult to talk about me. I'm a transgender woman. I started my transition when I was 8 years old in the north of my country. I'm from Mexico. I'm so happy to be Mexican and to be Latina. And I'm work with It Gets Better. And I'm the fundraiser coordinator of that program. And I'm an actress. I started to acting 6 years ago. I be the first transgender woman in a bank TV spot. And I try to show to the new generation of transgender people how do the things different, how don't talk about pain or bad histories, that I try to show it that you don't need live in the pain, you need to live happy. I married since 2 years ago. I was married 2 years ago. I have an amazing husband, and I think that to be transgender gives me the opportunity for help people that love me for who I am, not for who I look or for how I look. I have people that love me for who I am, for who I think, for my values, and I think that to be trans maybe is a place. And I today I'm gonna talk about it. Be trans, don't need be pain. Maybe be trans is a place, and a different place.
Amazing. Thank you so much for bringing your heart and these very, very positive messages. It occurs to me that someone might be listening who really, really needs just that kind of support today. So thank you. So as you know, every community, every culture, every country has its unique relationship with gender and with trans identities. What can you tell us about the experience of trans individuals where you live, and also with the trans communities that you support? Are there special challenges? Are there special successes you would like us to understand more about?
So, okay, I'm starting from now. Where can I start? who am I? First question is that I was searching me. If you read about my articles, there I try to tell about myself. Who am I? Where I was starting my journey as well. In my Bangladesh context, from my childhood, I was searching about myself. Who am I? Who am I? And that was a burning question for me, that who am I? Because I also mentioned in firstly that in our country context, people are not aware about the uh, definition of trans people. They don't know more about this community as well. They are treating badly because they are facing some visible community people who are doing certain things, or they don't have proper communication with trans people to mainstream society. So there is a breathing gap. There is a gap. So from then, if I can memorize my childhood, that's from my past. It was when I was so thin. Um, Maybe I was in 6 to 7 years old. So from that time, I was sexually assaulted from a same-sex person. So that was really weird for me. That was really weird for me. So in that time, I was so thinking that why it's happening with me? Why? So when I'm thinking that this thing is happening with me, so maybe I'm different from someone else. Maybe. So I was starting that searching that question, that burning question, that who am I? So my past is totally burning. It was really disaster. I don't want to remember my past as well, because I faced a lot of things that was totally negative. And again, I want to remember and recall those articles that I mentioned, that I don't want to go back in my past, because the childhood is totally destroyed. The people of our country, the context of situation, they can't understand what's the meaning of mine, who am I. So my family person was not concerned about me, my classmates are not concerned about me, my belongings are not supporting for me. So as I'm living in Bangladesh, so majority people are, they don't have proper knowledge based on gender, sex and sexuality. So when people don't have this basic knowledge, they will do many things. So I face stigma, I face bullying, I face sexual assault. So many things also happened with me. So from that sense, if I want to acknowledge myself that being a trans, what is my pride? What is my pride and who am I? I can easily say that yeah, that things was happened with me, and finally I got myself, and I'm really feeling proud of that. I'm really I'm really proudly representing today my Bangladeshi trans community in front of the world. That bullying helps me to understand myself. That stigma helps me to contribute myself in society as well. I didn't stop my study. I didn't stop working. I started working with several NGOs. When I was student, I was doing my intermediate. Only I started from there when I was so thin. So context of my situation with my gender identity. So maybe I can't explain what's the meaning of identity crisis in front of a cisgender man or women, right? Only the person who are facing this kind of difficulties, who are going on this kind of situation, he or she or they can understand what's the feeling, what's the situation is going on with him or her or they, right? So this scenario is also happening with me. And after all of this, after, if I in a nutshell, I want to say that I'm proudly representing myself. I'm proudly representing my Bangladesh, and I'm really love to say that I'm a Bangladeshi transgender woman. I'm proudly representing in front of the world that you people made me. You people made me cry, made me today actually, and you folks are made my year, made myself as well. So this is really a day. Again, I want to say this is really a day. This is really something for ourselves. So we are really proud being a representative of my underprivileged community from a part of nature, part of Bangladesh. I'm a part of nature. this is a great achievement for me. I want to say that I'm a part of nature, and this is the acknowledgement from the society. Thank you.
Thank you. Zoe, Javier, do either of you want to comment on this question as well?
Maybe in Mexico, maybe it's not that, maybe it's not different. In Mexico, people don't stand the existence of transgender people, but I think that we don't need to explain us. We don't need to explain our existence because we are exist around the history. If you go to Louvre, you can see a transgender sculpture, and if you come to Mexico and go to the zoo, you can talk with the muches. Muches is a culture and a pre-Hispanic culture in Mexico that talk about a third gender. And I think that today people try to extend us. And I think that we don't need explain our existence because we are part of the world, we are part of the history because we are exist and we deserve the same respect as everyone. I don't need a special respect or special opportunities. I need the same. I need the same. I don't need a special for nothing. I need the same. And I think that in Mexico, people think different. People think in Mexico City isn't a paradise for a transgender person because we have the same rights and another persons. But if you go to the other state, maybe it's different. Maybe people don't have rights. And this is the problem. This is the problem. We need to have the same rights in every part of the world. I talk about Mexico because I live in Mexico, but in Latin America, it's the same history. People don't have an identity, a name. I think that today we need to have access to a real name, a name that talk about us and not talk about a history and or talk about my body or talk about my history of life. I need a name who represents me. I needed that, and I have it, but other transgender people in Mexico don't have it. And I think that today, this is our goal, have the same rights, have the same opportunities. I think the today is the more important for me. And talk about hope. How I said before, today we need to see different histories. Today, I think the new generations need to see something different in TV or in the news and in every space. We need to talk about the different histories of transgender people, know about the pain. The pain is a reality because I have a whole life of 35 years old. And I think that we need to change the history. We need to change the idea of if you are trans, you need have too much pain in your life. You can be happy. You can be an actress. You can be an activist. You can be a doctor, or you can be anything if you want. And it's not about to be transgender. It's about to be a human. I think that.
Thank you. Javier, do you want to add anything to this question?
Sure, maybe just to add one thing, kind of a global trend we've been seeing for quite a few recent years. And I'm saying this mostly to underline the fact that progress is happening in many places, but a warning is that progress is not linear, right? Like things fall back. And I think in the US, you've seen that pretty well in the past years. So what I wanted to mention is this trend, which is called they're called anti-gender movements, right? So we've seen that far-right organizations active for many, many years. This is not a new thing, very present in the US and many other places, are fueling hatred and division towards trans people. But the fairly new thing is that they are doing so on the backs of cis women and feminist organizations, and they are doing so on the backs of lesbian, gay, and bisexual organizations, because they're just trying to make connections which shouldn't be there. and essentially planting these essentialist myths about gender or sex or whatever you get assigned at birth, that it is something final, something you have to keep for the rest of your life that cannot be changed or influenced. They are portraying trans people as predators and, for example, want them out of public bathrooms and with that out of all public spaces. They are saying that access to transitionary healthcare should be limited, framing it as for our own good, right? And we've heard these narratives in history, this for our own good narrative in history, and we know what they truly want is for trans people to not exist. And why I think it's important to mention this and to our viewers today, to our audience today, especially to those of you who are trans allies, is because in your jobs you need to be able to recognize these things, to challenge them. We need trans allies to name these things as debates that shouldn't be happening, because people's lives and experiences shouldn't be up for debate. And well, since not to leave on a grim note, maybe just for Tidov to echo my co-speakers Tashnuva and Zoe, public spaces do belong to us, and we are valid, our experiences are real. And yeah, every day brings us closer.
Thank you so much. I know in the State Department, we spend a lot of time thinking about these global movements and, reporting on, gender ideology discussions in various countries, and it certainly is of great concern to us. I wanted to kind of follow up on something that Zoe alluded to, which is that the experience that a trans person might have in Mexico City may look very different than a similar person in a more rural area of Mexico. And that brings me to this question of intersectionality. Human beings have more than one identity. They're more than just one thing. They have, a nested, intersecting array of other identities: race, ethnicity, religion, social class, disability status. I'm wondering if you could talk about how the experience of being trans in your society plays out differently depending on these other intersecting identities that people may have. And the other related question is, do you see the trans advocacy movement attempting to capture that nuance of those intersecting identities?
Okay, in Mexico, everything depends how you look. If you look like a cis person, maybe you have a good history. But if you don't look like a cis person, maybe things, you don't have the better experience. And I think that the same thing in Mexico City, have too much forms for life, but in the north it's more difficult. And I think that in the movement, in the trans movement, yes, we are support us, but we need more allies. We need the people that don't be trans, be an ally, and don't think about how I look or my color or how much money I have. We need to support us like humans, because it's true. We're humans, tall or small, or skinny. We are humans, and we don't need to talk about our difference. We need to talk about to work together to a better future for the new generations, because we'll have a real problem. My existence is no problem for a world, because it's my life, is my decision, is my body, how I look, how I make up, how I like is my problem. But we'll have real problems. We are plastic in the oceans, and people don't stop to think about my body or my decisions. People are talking about my color, how much money I have, how where I go to the school, or who is my husband or who is my best friend. People have real problems, and I think that if it don't matter how you look, if don't matter how money you have, or it don't matter how is your identity, maybe the problem it's gonna end tomorrow. But we are talking about the same for years and years and years and years. And I think the we need to support us like a humans and talk to the new generations to don't see the difference, just see that we are humans and we are part of the diversity of the world, because this is the reality. The world is in diversity. We are humans. I don't know why people don't stand that and try to explain everything, every color, every language. We need to extend us like our humans. I think that.
Javier, can you talk a little bit about some of the ways that you see intersectionality being important in the kind of advocacy and grant work that you do?
Sure. I think one key aspect of intersectionality is access to resources, right? We've mentioned in this conversation previously that trans people in general, like statistically, have lesser access to education, which means they have lesser access to the employment market, but that also means they have less access to life-saving healthcare or, you know, transitionary healthcare in general. If you add things like systemic racism to that, so Black people, people of color, indigenous communities, you can see that this experience of life quickly, from maybe invisibility or ridicule, quickly turns into something which is really a risk to your life, a real risk of being beaten, attacked, murdered. There are several projects across different countries that do only one thing, which is track trans murder, which is very prevalent even in the so-called global north countries, right? I think if we add other intersectionalities to that, such as living with a disability, such as caring duties, it really makes hard for people to function in public space and to speak out for their own rights. From a perspective of a funder, why access to resources is key, because still the majority of our resources, those that even are supposed to support trans movements, go to mainstream organizations, to human rights organizations or LGBT organizations that have a trans project at best. Those that go to trans organizations, especially the funds that are being administered by big grant makers such as the State Department, tend to go to big organizations that have simply the capacity to manage them. For example, the capacity to comply with the Code of Federal Regulations, which I know that is a hard thing to jump over. Like the US, the State Department can't easily change that. But one thing to look at when talking about intersectionality is that probably the people you talk to in your diplomatic offices are people who speak English, so which limits the access of the majority of trans people, right? Because not everyone was as fortunate as I was to actually learn English to a good enough extent. It also means that the funds that you are administering or funders in general are administering are not going to those communities which are really addressing the needs of the most underrepresented communities, because they probably can't form registered organizations. They probably don't have finance staff to manage grants. They probably don't know what a project cycle is because they never had access to that kind of information. So I think the big strategic question is, how do we as funders really enable those most underrepresented groups and most marginalized groups to access these resources and work and carry out the work that they do so brilliantly and that they just need to be doing.
Thank you. I want to ask, because this panel is organized by a collaboration of entities within the State Department. So I want to ask before we move to questions from the audience, and we have several excellent ones, so I don't want to miss those. I want to ask what the international community can and should be doing to support trans rights. And our Secretary Blinken has made it clear that human rights, including trans rights, are at the forefront of US foreign policy. But I do want to ask how the US can best promote equality for trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming persons, and how the international community more broadly can work towards that as well. And maybe we'll take that sort of question somewhat succinctly, and then we can move to some audience questions. Thanks.
Okay. Joe, do you want to go? Just you may go. I don't have any problem as well.
Go, Jessica.
Okay, thank you. So if I want to answer first previous question that what is the intersectionality? Sorry. So in Bangladesh context, intersectionality is more different because we have village and we have urban. So city of trans people's life and the village life is more different. Huh? And we have so stigma as well, and people are not well accepted in the community, and they don't have proper information based on this community. So people have so many things, so many misconception, perception based on this community. So, and Joe also mentioned that everyone are focused on body color, context, the money do we have. They are not thinking about the behind of the scenario, the life of a person. They are not treating the person of a human being same as Bangladesh as well. So people are talking about that why we are doing these kind of things. People are observing some visible community. We have in different countries, trans people have local name as well. So in our country, we have Hijra tradition as well. So people, when they are doing for their livelihood some traditional activities. So some mainstream people are getting bored, they are feeling disturbed, that's why they are doing. They are questioning that why they are doing, but they are not thinking that why they are doing, because they don't have that access to work with mainstream society. They don't have that kind of accommodation to live with dignity. They don't have enough money to live a better life. They don't have that. So, but the thing is that people are always ready to ask why they are doing. They are not thinking how will be the change the situation. So, if I want to connect this question with how the international organization can work with us as well. See, we are now being a developing country. Still now, we are not developed country. We are being developing. So we are crossing our 50 years of celebration in these 26 months. So we are trying to do something. Our government also trying to do something for all. Here is we need some collaboration. Such as people are not much aware about this community. They should know about more. They should gather information. They should gather knowledge based on this community. They should study first. In our country, most of the people don't have what's the meaning of transgender people. Whose are they? There are so many diverse community are included in this umbrella term. But they don't have that much knowledge. So in international platform, this day I'm again say that most important for us because we are visible. This is also important to inform This is also important to know those people that we are visible. This is also important. So for that sense, we can make some collaboration to build awareness in front of the society, how people will do, because respect is a vice versa. When you will respect me, I will give back to respect as well. And when I will be able to live a life with my own dignity, with my own skill, I'll be able to earn money. I have also prestige in society. So that time the gap with mainstream society to trans community, it will be vanished. And international organization can work on there. We are deprived from education. Near about 85 to 90% people are drop out from school in their early childhood. They are not able to go a school. They are not able to take education from institution because of this kind of trans stigma, this kind of bullying. So some international organization can work in Bangladesh to raise awareness to drop out education from school, because when a person will be able to study first, to continue study first, he or she or they can able to enlighten themselves. They will be able to go for next study as well. The thing is that we are deprived from our family, because when my feminine attitude also hampering me to so-called patriarchal masculinity, I'm not able to show in front of society. I don't have this kind of masculinity. My voice is not changed. My attitude is not changed. It's more feminine, and I also take those decisions from that kind of situation. I have to go for transformation as well, because I'm trapped in a false trapped in a big body na. So for that reason, just we are dropped out from family as well. So after dropping out family, where we are living, we are depriving from socialization as well. Family is a big part for socialization for a child. So international organization can also work in here to build a proper rapport with local organization and international organization. They can make a collaboration to avoid this kind of situation. They should ensure this awareness with government. They should ensure this kind of awareness with local organization. And if we can easily do it, then as upcoming next generation or upcoming 4 to 5 generation, they will be able to make contribution in society. So the people who are not educated, people who are grown out already, so how can they contribute? So every person have merit. Every person are able to work. That is not necessary for education, because they are already elder. They are already grown up. They are near about 25 to 30 or 30 years. So we can think another accommodation for them as well. So people who have donor organization, or people who have donation, they can donate local organization to build those empowerment, economical empowerment, that will create sustainability, because sustainability is most important, continuity is most important to change our community life. Me personally, I got social exposure from public media. I'm also delighted, but my another 90% community are not like this. They need also this light as well. On people when will only focus Tashnuba will delight. Tashnuba will encourage. This is not our development. If we want to build a healthy development, and if we want to create a balance with all community development, so we should also think about community perspective. So what is the need of community and how they will work out? Because another thing I want to share, that most of the time, and as I also work with several NGOs, I also observed that there is majority people are heterosexual. They are belonging in cisgender group. They can understand my pain, so they can design program by their own, because they can be sympathetic, but it also important to be empathetic. Sympathy is not enough to change the situation. When we are talking about equality, so first we should talk about equity. So like this, when I will be able to talk myself, we will be able to talk about ourselves, it will create a bunch of change. So international community should also work with people who are able to make change for their community as well. There are so many community leaders in our country. So they are searching opportunity to explore themselves, explore their rights. This is also important to build up rapport with community representative as well.
Thank you. That's extremely powerful and really important, I think, to keep in mind all of these challenges that you mentioned. Haber, Zoe, we have about 5 minutes left. I think we should have scheduled for longer. We have so much to talk about. But I wanted to see if you would like to address the international community question as well, or if you would like to move to questions from the audience. I'll leave it to you.
I don't know, whoever you want or people want, I don't know, but I'm so happy to answer everything.
Okay, Haber, what do you think?
Well, I have one thought I can share on the topic.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. Well, around what the international community can do, you mentioned what are the ways of promoting equality. So I want to challenge you a little bit, and I want to say move away from promoting equality and instead try to tackle the injustice and dismantle the boundaries trans people and trans communities are facing. Like, if you think, you probably have in your head, and I do as well, this kind of good way of doing things, right? Like a good way of applying for funds, a good way of being professional, a good way of approaching and talking to decision makers. I think we all need to self-reflect on the fact that that good way is our way, is the way of usually a white middle-aged cis man, which we're kind of transposing on different communities, and many trans communities just don't fit in that. And it's very hard for them to access the things that we take for granted. In practice, that means things like what I mentioned around language, right? Not only speaking in English, but it also means things in terms of language, things, for example, moving away or opening yourself to move away from the language of indicators, of outputs, outcomes, deliverables, of sustainable development goals, and speaking about impact and about the needs and the way trans communities talk about them.
Thank you. I appreciate what you're saying about the need to access populations that are not English speakers and how that kind of may be related to other identities that connote privilege or denote privilege, I suppose. And it's one of the reasons why the State Department has such a robust local language program training that we're all required to receive sort of fairly high level of proficiency before we go out into the community and work, particularly for reporting officers. It's so important to be able to talk to local groups and local organizations in the native language. And also just to point out that, the State Department has a wide variety of grant opportunities, big and small, including some small GLIFA grants that are available each year. I wanted to see, we have a couple minutes left, but if it's okay with you all, I would love to go over maybe another 10 minutes if that's okay with you. Is it okay with everyone? Okay. Because these audience questions I think are really important. So starting out, one question comes from Riva on Facebook, who asks, it can be really dangerous to be visible in some countries. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, of course. In Mexico, people that say I'm trans. To be trans is a danger in so many countries. In Latin America, it's so dangerous. In Latin America, to be trans and look like and I say look because people, if you don't look like a cis person, it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous, and maybe your life is in risk for be trans, and these things need change.
Thank you. Tashnuva, Javier, you want to speak on that at all? No? Okay.
No,
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay. Let me move to another question. What are some of the next steps your countries need to advance equality for transgender and non-binary people? We've addressed this a little bit, but perhaps some other steps that you think need to be taken.
Okay, so apart from my side, that as an activist that I'm thinking, we need a proper definition because again, I'm saying that we are so new in these trans issues. People are not oriented about all things. So we got a declaration from our government in 2013, end of 13, and there is a gazette in 2014 as well. So we are thinking that we need a proper definition. What's the meaning of transgender people? How will be they treat in society? What will be the access of education? What will be the access in job sector? How they will contribute to society? So we are planning to cooperation with some private organization, with some government organization, and some national and international NGOs as well. So I think when a person will be able to lead their life with their own stand, with their own skill, so this is most important to create a sense in society. So when I will be able to earn my life by myself, by my own skill, so it will be effective. So we are working in there. So this is our first priority just right now. And of course, this visibility is also not smooth for anyone or not smooth for every country. So there is some different zone in different countries. They have some different criteria, different socio-economical, political situation. So this is also happening with trans people. We are observing some news from different parts of the world that they are being attacked, they are being murdered. So this is also happened from some fundamentalists as well. So this is also issue for concern as well.
Thank you. There are so many ways that you could answer that question. You know, what are the steps that we need to take? We've talked about healthcare. We've talked about criminal justice. We've talked about education and access. This question is a relatively specific one related to the progress that societies need to make. It's a question from Robin. Transgender people may have to update their gender on their official government documents. What is that process like in your countries, and has progress been made on updating identity documents?
I can break the ice again. Here, not speaking globally, speaking about Poland specifically, maybe. The system did not change since for the past 40 odd years or so. And the process still requires a medical diagnosis, and in many cases, so-called a life test, right? Where you see a doctor for an extended period of time to essentially prove you're trans enough. And additionally, the legal procedure is, there is no kind of clean administrative procedure where you file your documents and then you correct your gender marker. You actually need to go to court and sue your parents. And that is a very kind of weird, convoluted way to do this. The Polish government has there was a bill a few years ago to change this, but it was vetoed by the current ruling party and the president from that current ruling party. So probably we won't see any progress on that in the nearest future.
And no third or non-binary marker at this time? No. Okay.
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah. Okay.
in Mexico, it's different. In Mexico, in a few states, it's so easy, and you can go pay for your new identification, your new certificate. But in a few states, if you go to another state, you need to have a process that lasts a year, maybe 1 year, for maybe have your access to your identity. But people it's try to change that in this year, and this year for Mexico is so important, and this is the reason that we need help, for international help and support us. And I think that it's time to take action, not just support, take action and support and different organizations, and go with us. And it's like a fun in Mexico.
Thank you. All right, so changing gears a little bit, this is also a fundamentally intersectional question, but Tyler asked, when we discuss HIV in the LGBTQI plus family, HIV and AIDS always comes up. What are the ways that we can highlight the needs and important fights that our transgender friends are facing in regard to HIV and AIDS? Or perhaps does HIV and AIDS play out much the same whether you are cis or trans? Or is there some different impact?
No, I can go again. Well, one thing to note about HIV and AIDS is that it is largely an economic thing, right? If the worse your economic situation and the worse your access to sex education, condoms, protection, the worse your exposure to violence and sexual violence, the more likely you are to contract HIV or get AIDS later on. So no, the answer is that cis experiences and trans experiences in terms of HIV and many other similar health things are not in any way similar.
Thank you. So we have 3 minutes left in our extended discussion time. So I want to just take this opportunity to give you space for any parting thoughts or words to your audience, to the Department of State, to your colleagues, to your fellow activists around the world. What would you like made visible on this day?
Okay, so within 1 minute, just I want to make a comment to my audience, to my community people, to my, especially for my mainstream people, that people are always saying some sentences or using some words that's hammering a person's life, because when a person is bullying to me, I forgot my name, I forgot my childhood. So comments to mainstream society, especially in South Asia, especially in my Bangladesh context, that don't do this, because if you can build a life, you may support, but if you can't do it, you can't make a barrier to his or her or their life, because you don't know what's the pain in their shoes. This is so much important to think about. So please think, this is 2021. This is enough. We are celebrating 50 years of our liberty. So every man are equal, every human being are born equal, free, and they have own independence, their own life. They have that ability to lead their life. So if we're able to contribute to help them, so help. If you are not able to contribute to make an easier life, so don't do bullying. because mental health is, you are hammering a life. So many people are doing suicide in our country context, especially trans people. They are getting so much uh, disadvantage from society. They are getting so much pain, and they are separating from themselves, from life, from family as well. So this should be more easier. This should be more helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. We're at time, so I would like to thank our panelists for your phenomenal hearts and resilience and bravery and commitment, and for being with us today, and for allowing us to celebrate this occasion with you. I would like to turn it over now to GLIFA's President, Jeff Anderson, for some concluding words. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much, Jessica, and thanks for moderating this discussion. And just a special thanks to all of you for your courage, for your inspiration, and really your call to action and your challenge to all of us, whether we're in the State Department or whether we're GLIFA members or as individuals, to all those watching, to really work in all of our lives, professionally and personally, to tackle injustices and work to advocate for rights for transgender friends, colleagues, advocates around the world. So look forward to continuing the conversation with all of you and others about how we can best do that. And thank you again for your time, and thank you for coming today.